just going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. My name is Daniel Barrera Ortega. I'm the program specialist of the SGSO Network. And I'm also joined by Tristana Perkler, Executive Director of the SGSO Network. And welcome to our virtual gathering focusing on fundraising and creative partnerships. So again, this is kind of to really harness the community knowledge and wisdom in response to the current funding changes and landscape that we have so far. So we're really trying to think about what are some emerging solutions that folks are trying, whether it is something that they did with their budgets or partnerships they created a long time ago, and it's working and helping keeping everybody resilient and afloat, as well as any pivots that have happened that you have done that seem to be working. So we're really going for nuggets of wisdom, glimmers of wisdom of things that are working. Some general housekeeping. Continue to introduce yourself in the chat. We love to see who's in the room, as well as familiar faces. And this call will be recorded. You will receive it in an email in your inbox on Friday, and it will also live in our recording library at the SGSO Network website. Briefly, also, the slides will be dropped in the chat. So if you want to follow along or make your own notes, that will be available to you as well. And again, this will also live with the recording and it will be sent to your email. And we will have a Q&A period for all of our presenters. So make sure that you're dropping in questions in the chat if you have them so we can read them out to the presenters. And since we're not a webinar setup, it would be really, and we have multiple presenters, it would be great if you identified what presenter you would like to ask the question on. So feel free to drop them in the chat as they come back, as they come up, and we will read them out for the presenters during Q&A time. Awesome. So what can you expect from today? We're gonna welcome. We did the welcome. Great job, everyone. And we will have also some check-in time as well. We're gonna do some brief breakout room check-ins on groups of 2. We will also do a brief overview of SGSO Network resources that are relevant to this topic. And we will go into our presentations with our pre-selected presenters. Then a Q&A focusing on our presenters of today. And we will end with just open discussion time. So if there's any connections that you made during this presentation, or you feel like there are relevant resources that you'd like to share, feel free to, with more details on how it'll work, but you'll be able to come off mute and just share with the network, as well as ask any other questions that come up while we're sharing. So that's what you can expect from today. We will start today with our check-in. So we will do this in groups of 2 for about 3 minutes. It'll be pretty brief. Please join your breakout room and introduce yourself, your name, your location, your role, and your organization. And this is really to check in on how we're doing, check in as members. So some things that we can talk about is how is your organization doing with the changes that have happened, as well as has the organization been affected, and how are you managing? This is really, again, to connect both on your organization and member level, as well as just kind of human level, especially because we will pivot from thinking about how we're being affected to a really more solution-oriented and really action-oriented seeking. So I will open up some breakout rooms in a second. I will put the questions in the chat. We'll be there for about 3 minutes. It'll be pretty brief. Ready? Awesome. Welcome back. I think most of us are back in the main room. So thank you, everybody, for some time to connect with each other. I hope you're able to share and have some time to really connect one-on-one. Feel free to shout out your room buddy in the chat. If you had any closing thoughts you'd like to share or any cool connections, the chat is always open. So for the sake of time and our presenters, we're gonna keep going to their presentation of today. And we're gonna go through some SGSO Network resources that will be really great if you explored, that will support you, especially as all of these really fast changing times. So community is so important. This is the reason why we're here today. And the SGSO Network aims to foster community through our peer learning communities. These are groups that are member proposed, member led, and member managed. They meet once a month or at a cadence that they decide and discuss and talk shop around what problems or solutions or just checking in with each other. And these are separated as role types, as organization types, as well as regional. And we also have affinity groups. So some examples of these groups are elementary, middle, and high school PLCs, program managers and program directors, statewide farm to school and school garden network leaders PLC, and also the district level school garden programs PLC. This is just a sample of the many PLCs we have. So if you're interested in joining us and joining one or learning more about them, there will be a link in the chat briefly where you can read more about that program and also have access to the full roster. Something else that is really cool about these PLCs is that they have a contact list. So you don't have to wait for the actual meeting to ask questions and share. You can call out to the whole contact list asynchronously or connect one-on-one as well. So that is a really amazing resources that also the PLCs and the affinity groups. Currently also our affinity groups are the LGBTQIA plus affinity group, as well as people of color in school gardens. If you see a PLC or an affinity group that you don't that you would like to have but is not on the roster already, you can send us an email at info@sgsonetwork.org and we will follow up with you with next steps on how to create a new PLC. We also have our forum. The forum is the best way to really connect directly from school gardener to school gardener. It is a community of 1,085 people strong. And this is a great place to ask questions directly to the membership, or if you have resources or exciting announcements, to also share them on the net, share them on the forum. This is again hosted by Google Groups, so you do need a Google, Gmail account to be able to access it. And there's constantly conversation. People are sharing or asking questions, as well as you can provide expertise and answer to threads as well. You can also set it to receive a digest, a weekly digest, a monthly digest, or subscribe to every single time that somebody posts on the forum to receive an email about it. So there's a lot of really cool customization settings to keep you updated from what's happening from school gardener to school gardener. I know this used to be 900 and now it's 1,085 people. That's really cool. It's very exciting. So we also have a bi-monthly newsletter as well as a newsletter archive. So every 2 months, the SGSO network sends a newsletter that is a bite-sized deep dive on a specific school garden topic. As you can see here, one of the ones that I'm featuring is our funding school garden programs newsletter. This is a past newsletter that you can find in the archive. So you will see a link in the chat where you can sign up for the newsletter, as well as access all of the past newsletters as well. Some examples: funding school gardens, as well as growing school garden programs, so scaling up. We also had one recently last September on farm to school connections as well. So you should be on the lookout for another one coming up next month, also specifically focused on funding. So definitely get excited about that. Now, this one, I'm actually going to give you a little tour. So we have promising practice pages at the SGSO network, and these are curated resource guides where many experts in school garden topics have looked at a specific field or specific element of school gardens and created a curated list full of resources, best practices, and case studies. So I'm actually going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to go to our actual page. Here's what a promising practice, and specifically our funding school garden work promising practice, can look like. As you can see, there's a brief overview, and you can expect to find best practices, themes, or key elements of that specific topic. So for example, this one on funding SGSOs, these are three really important elements to have a robust and resilient budget, or that you can consider in finding revenue streams, and they have a brief description as well. We also have, if you keep scrolling down as well, you will find different buckets of revenue streams that experts have identified. And if you click into each one of them, you can see a description as well as any relevant resources to that specific revenue stream. It can be a webinar, it can be a partner page, it can be even legislative pieces on how other folks have codified in their district or in the state receiving funding from their state agencies. And if you keep scrolling down, you can also find, sorry, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. I like to keep my letters small. Case studies. So these are deeper dives into a specific district or maybe a specific nonprofit, or maybe even a fee-for-service organization and how they fund their work in supporting school gardens as well. So we have a district. There's also another district, Alachua County Public Schools, and also fee-for-service model. So there's different ones you can explore that you can learn how they're funding their work. So we have many other promising practices, but this one is specifically on funding. You will find the link as well dropped in the chat briefly. So that is enough from me. We're gonna move on to our presentations of today. So thank you so much to our amazing presenters of today. We're gonna be getting started with, ooh, surprise. 1 second, there we go. We're gonna be getting started with Vivian Rogers, and on deck we have Hawthorn. So Vivian, please take it away.
Hi, everyone. This is Vivian. I am the Director of Development and Finance with LifeLab, and I started last August. I want to say thank you for inviting me to this, and just so sorry that I have to leave early. I had an earlier planned meeting at noon, so I would love to hear, questions or anything. But after, if you have questions, you can reach out to me at my email. So as I said, I started with LifeLab in August of last year. And one of the things I first do when I come to an organization is look at their funding sources, review where they're all coming from. And mainly I'm looking to see how diversified the funding is and areas of growth. And luckily, maybe it was lucky that I came in August before all this happened, but I was able to see that we have a really growth potential with individuals who give under $1,000. And my goal is to create a really firm base of support from these people. My long-term financial goal from this group is probably around, for this region, $300,000 to $400,000 a year. And the first thing we did, or I usually do with individuals at this giving level, is focus on direct mail pieces. And if you go to the next slide, I think, there you go. So direct mail pieces, I believe, are still very worthwhile to do. I do try to link them up then with social media campaigns. And with LifeLab, we decided to do quarterly campaigns where our direct mail will be focusing on. And I'll start, there's 4 campaigns, and this one is the campaign that we'll be doing for the spring and the summer. So the spring, it came out in April, and the summer, it'll come out at the end of August, right before people get back into school and so on. And these campaign, we're calling it Prepping the Garden Classroom. So in April, we basically reached out to individuals and said that with your help today, you'll help us create a garden that's abundant for all our little summer campers who show up in June. One of the things I noticed that at LifeLab is we didn't have that many individuals in our database. In this region, I'm used to having like about 900 to 1,500 individual names, and we were way below that. So we decided to buy a mailing list. And when we bought a mailing list, we focused on homeowners with children between the ages of 5-11. So we were hoping to get people who had kids through kindergarten through 6th grade. And we made the letter very specific so that they knew that with $50, they'd either fund a taco garden, a butterfly sanctuary, or a beekeeping window. One of our long-term plans is we're just barely starting is to create the social media campaign as well on top of it, but we're still working on that. And basically, for this letter that came out in April, which is not the best time to send out a letter, but it still we had a mailing list. I think it finally came out to that we had close to 2,000 names on the list that we sent out. And we are close to receiving $3,000 from it right now. And the average gift, which is $131, which is really good. We had 2 gifts from new donors at over 500 or $500 and above. So I'll start researching them and seeing what major donor capabilities they have on that. And it brought in from our list so far between 8 to 10 new donors. And we'll use that list for the next year to see how many more we can get onto it. Again, the summer campaign, which will be in August, will focus on this as well, but we'll start talking about prepping the garden for the interns who show up on our garden. And then the next 2 campaigns will focus on field trips and scholarships. And that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vivian. Please join me in giving a round of applause. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, jazz hands. Awesome. Thank you so much, Vivian. We're gonna go on to Hawthorn, and then Jenna, you are on deck. Take it away, Hawthorn.
Thank you, Daniel. I'll wait for slides here. Oh, okay, I'm not muted. Hi, y'all. I'm Hawthorn McCracken. I am the Farm to Early Care and Education Program Associate with the National Farm to School Network. I work remotely from Wisconsin. You can go on to the next slide. So I am a relatively new staff member. I've been with NFSN for almost a year now. We have a lot of programming, so I may not mention absolutely everything if you're familiar with NFSN, but just wanted to make sure that folks were aware of our resources today. So you can read our mission and vision there is increasing access to local food and nutrition education, and strengthening food systems locally and regionally. You can go on next. And this is for folks who might not be super familiar with NFSN. I wanted to include this because this is the School Garden Support Organization Network. And see here, our 3 core components of farm to school are nutrition education, local procurement, and those school gardens. So we have a lot of resources and do a lot of policy advocacy that I hope is relevant to your local garden programs. Go on next. So today I will mention like NFSN has mixed funding, and we have had some disruption in some of our federal funding sources. But today I wanted to share less about what NFSN specifically is doing and more about the resources that we have and the network that we maintain, to give you all access to the experts around the country who are going to be in your region, in your state, and might be more familiar with mid-sized, smaller funders in your area. So our network has over 20,000 members in all 50 states and US territories. That includes, we have what we call partner organizations that we work a little more closely with, but network members are anyone who has signed up to receive our updates in our newsletters and communicate with us. Go on next. Oh, so our core functions, we really are sort of an information hub, a clearinghouse of all these different farm to school and school garden resources that are created by our partners around the country. We support a lot of networking for, we recently had a cohort of school garden coordinators. We have a BIPOC farmer project going on right now with bringing the farm to school. And I help to manage our early care networking. So we really just want to like connect folks with each other and make sure they have access to all the resources they need in their area. We also have a very large resource library. A lot of it includes, it includes a lot of fundraising information, but unfortunately, many of those resources do reference federal funding that may be in question now. But our policy team is something I really want to highlight. They're amazing folks, and I'll show you a little preview in a few slides of our policy team's work. But they've been doing quite a bit of advocacy to help maintain the funding at state and federal level, and just really get the word out there that like farm to school has been here, will continue to be here, and we are trying to maintain these food systems and nutritious meals for our kiddos. Go on the next slide. So this is, if you're interested, this QR code will just take you to our partnership page. You can see people in your region who are in our network, and maybe find a new partner to collaborate with. We've seen a lot of really creative fundraising solutions coming up with folks forming purchasing co-ops or collaborating between early care and school systems and nonprofits. And those building those networks is really what we need right now. So you can become a partner. You have to agree to our call to action for a racially just food system. And you can get access to our partner listservs, our policy roundtables, and our policy team's office hours. There's no size limitation here, but it is for organizations, schools, businesses, things like that. So entities. And you'll be featured on our partner map so other folks in your area can find you on that partner map. Or if you're an individual, or if you just want to explore a little bit more, you can sign up for our newsletter and become what we call a member. And you will get access to our policy database, our resource hubs open on our website, and our This Week in Farm to School newsletter and our monthly newsletter. We really are striving right now to include a lot of unique fundraising opportunities, grant opportunities, more professional development like this event, and just sort of help support folks through this uncertainty in our funding and our farm to school structures. All right, next slide, please. So this is a preview of our policy map. If you're into policy at all, or you want to know like what's going on at your state level, I really encourage you to check out this map. It's amazing. It's live. Our policy team tracks bills that are proposed at the state level, like all over, and you can sort them by, school meal access, producer support, school gardens, and nutrition education, and find out like what's going on in your state at, in the legislature. Is there anything that you want to discuss with your policymakers? We also have some advocacy tools to help you formulate, letters or reach out to your policymakers or even do a site visit. We have a couple of case studies in our resource library about that. And again, if you become an NFSN partner, then you have access to our policy team. You can join them in an office hour for a brief consultation to raise any relevant issues or gets us some support for any policy education and advocacy you might be doing in your area to help support this, state level, local level, and federal funding for school gardens and farm to school. All right, next page. And that's all I got. My email is, I'm going to put it in the chat too, very simple, hawthorn@farmtoschool.org. And I've put a couple of links in the chat as well, our resource library, the network page, and our policy page. Thank you all very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hawthorn. Awesome resources. Join me in thanking Hawthorn, some silent claps. And next up is Jenna from Geo Garden Club.
All right. Hi, everyone. Jenna Dean. I'm a founder of Geo Garden Club, and I also have over a decade of experience coordinating and managing school garden programs. About 7 of those years in the Bay Area at Adelante Spanish Immersion School. During that time, I did a lot of Life Lab workshops, so great to see the Life Lab team here. And then I moved up to Bellingham, where I worked for Common Threads Farm, so great to see Stephanie here as well. And we can move to the next slide, please. So I created Geo Garden Club for home, school, and community gardeners. Our goal is to increase community food resilience by connecting local gardeners and their data. So it's built on the premise that local data is the most important data for gardeners, and so it groups gardeners into local chapters, and all the gardeners in the local chapters share and are able to view all of the garden plans and crop and variety and timing data from gardeners in their area. So you can kind of think of it like a Wikipedia for local garden plans. It helps gardeners answer what to grow, when to grow it, and then also who to share it with. Not just surplus harvests, but also things like seeds, pots, compost, soil, whatever materials. Probably someone has it in your area and has extra. And so thinking that really helps strengthen communities when we have that strong local network. So next slide, please. So we do it through a number of key features. First and foremost, our planning feature. So we have, you can plan your garden and have timelines that you can filter for various time intervals. You are able to have multi-year timelines, so you can go back and forth from years, so there's no limit to the number of years that you can store your garden plans in. It's also very easy to copy your plantings from one year to another so that you're replicating what works and not replicating what doesn't work. And then there's no limit to number of gardens that you can have in your account. And we also don't gatekeep crop or variety lists. So just like Wikipedia, you can add crops or varieties to the database if you're growing them, really making it a really culturally appropriate list of crops and varieties, which is really exciting and also inspiring to see what else you can grow. Another really key and helpful feature is the management feature through our task lists. Those tasks are automatically generated based on your timeline plans. And when you complete tasks, on or off schedule, it will automatically update your timelines. So the next year, your timelines will be accurate based on what actually happened, not what you thought would happen. You can also make custom tasks for things beyond what may be part of a timeline, like sowing or transplanting or harvesting. So if you want to have watering tasks or really whatever tasks, you can add those as well. Moving along to our sharing feature, like I mentioned, you can post really whatever surplus food, seeds, materials, etc. And then there's also a way to request things. So you can offer or you can seek materials with others in your community. We have an observation feature. We wanted to make sure that the beauty of the gardens was also highlighted in this technology, and it's a way to share best practices. It's a way to ask for help from others in your community. And those observations are all filterable. So if you wanted to filter like cucumber and trellis to try to get all sorts of ideas for trellising your cucumbers, you could do that type of thing. And then finally, collaboration. And this is definitely designed with my school garden educator mindset. So just like a Google Doc, you can add editors to a garden, and they're able to complete tasks and add plantings so that you can keep everyone on the same page with what needs to happen in your garden. And there's no limit to the number of gardeners you can add to your garden to help manage. So if you have a team of volunteers, this might make volunteer management a little bit more easier. At least that is the goal. All right, thank you. So we are 100% member supported. We don't show ads, we don't sell data, we don't have corporate sponsors. And because I will always be a school garden educator at heart, and I just so appreciate and understand the value of school garden education. We offer free accounts for school garden educators, garden education nonprofits. So you can use this technology, not just you, but your volunteers or school staff can use this technology completely free. So there's no charge. Otherwise, for the general public, we offer everyone 6 months free to get started. And then it's a monthly subscription at $4.99 a month. So you know that scale. But what we're really excited to kick off is a community partnership program where school garden or garden education nonprofits can provide referrals to the app and then receive a portion of that monthly subscription back to their program. So the amount that you would get would really be based on the number of referrals that you're able to generate. But this is easy, unrestricted monthly income, which I know can be really, really valuable in the funding landscape. So you can classify this opportunity under the like creative partnership. But we think there's real opportunity not only to make a little bit of money, but also to educate your community about garden practices in your area, because those folks in your community will be able to see your school gardens planting plans, the crops and varieties, the timing. So it's also a way to provide community education. We are a new technology. We just launched in January. So we haven't started this program yet, but we're really excited to kick it off potentially this fall, definitely in the new year. So if this is something that you'd be interested in learning more about, or if you just want to get some free accounts and play around with it, please reach out to me. I'll put my email and a link to our website in the chat too. So thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenna. That was awesome tool. And now we'll be moving on to Matt. Matt, take it away.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Suprunowicz. I'm the executive director and founder of SunstainED Farms in Denver, Colorado. We work with about 45 public schools here in Denver. And like many of you, we lost some federal funding. We had a $300,000 EPA grant that was canceled that was going to support us over the next 2 years to build a garden and programming at a school for pregnant teens and teen moms here in Denver, Colorado. And so we've been kind of trying to really think about how we can support making sure that happens. We also lost that opportunity to do the USDA Farm to School, which we definitely anticipated funds from that as well. And so kind of similar to Vivian, one of the first things that we did was go back to basics. And we really looked at what were our percentages of revenue that we had budgeted for and were anticipating to try to discuss what was realistic and what was not. We personally have felt that sponsorships have been waning. I think a lot of corporations and businesses don't necessarily know what to expect in their own revenue, and as such have kind of paused some of their fundraising and charitable giving. And so we have really tried to think about what ways can we lean on the partnerships that we know are really secure. And so one of the things that we have recently been doing is almost on any major line of our revenue stream, from Denver Public Schools all the way down to individual schools and to local community foundations, as well as local businesses, is going through and being able to communicate the impact that we have had in 2024 and already in 2025, and asking for them to confirm the support that they have given in the past or that they had pledged to give for the rest of 2025 or 2026. And so I think going back to those basics and making sure that we know where our funding's coming from and what is secure and maybe what isn't has been really, really important. The other thing that we've been doing is really looking at our expense lines. We had planned to hire for a new position in July 1 that we have frozen at this time to make sure that we have flex room within our budgets. Has been really, really important for us as an organization. Additionally, we have really relied on some emergency grants. And so I recommend that folks that have lost federal funding look to see what national, but also local organizations and foundations are offering emergency grants for organizations that have lost federal funding. I saw like a flux of them towards the end of May and even into June for here in Colorado to be able to apply. And it's been really great to see foundations trying to like shift their focus to see what ways they can kind of fill gaps in funding that might exist. And so, looking for emergency funding or asking local foundations if they are offering that could be a really great suggestion for folks. I'm going down my list of notes. I think the other big thing that we have been doing is reaching out to our community and individual donors that might only be able to give a little bit of money, and specifically at our Florence Crittenton project for the garden for our teen moms. We are working with the community to just throw a fiesta this summer. A lot of people are feeling really, really frustrated what is happening in our federal government and when funding is lost. And it's really important to like lean on our community and bring them in. And so people might not be able to write a check for $300,000 for the garden build out. However, we can bring community together, and families are making tamales and working on a bake sale, and bringing their own perennial plants and doing work days to just get the community involved and make sure that we're making incremental steps towards our vision. So even though we might have been stalled by big money, we can still come together as a community to work towards that vision. And you never know what kind of comes through the grapevine to be able to support financially. And so that's been one of our other things. I'll also make a shameless plug. I run the executive director's PLC. And I think it's phenomenal to have gatherings like this that are recorded and can get out to the masses. But one of the things that we do in our PLC is we make sure that it is not recorded and that there are no like AI notes or anything, so that we can really get into the nitty gritty of problem solving for executive directors in school garden spaces. And so we meet monthly, actually on Wednesdays. Today was our meeting. So we'll meet again in July, and we would love to see additional executive directors join. And if you need support or just to talk through things, I am by no means an expert, but I'm happy to talk to you, but also to try to connect you to other executive directors that might be facing similar issues and are thinking about creative solutions to make sure that we're funding the so important programming for our kids and communities. So thank you, Daniel and Tristana, for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. Also, this is a great segue to our last and not least presenter. Erica, please take it away.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Erica Krug, and I work as Farm to School Director at Rooted in Madison, Wisconsin. And also with the Wisconsin School Garden Network. So Rooted is a nonprofit based in Madison. We have an urban farm. We help manage community gardens. And then my job is overseeing our farm to school program, which includes working with about 15 schools in Madison to provide field trips to our youth farm sites and also garden education in school gardens. You can go to the next slide, Daniel. So yeah, to kind of lean into what Matt was just talking about, we also experienced a lot of chaos this spring. We had applied for the USDA Farm to School grant. We had received it a few years ago, and we were excited to be able to finally apply again. We were confident we would probably get it. And we also found out at the end of April that our AmeriCorps Farm to School program was canceled effective immediately. So, and then we've also been affected other of our program areas by other federal grant cancellations. So we had been talking as an organization for a little while about doing a fundraiser, and specifically a fundraiser to support our work with school gardens, because we didn't want all of the cost to fall on schools. So I went for a run in February, and somehow I started thinking about Willie Nelson and Farm Aid. Willie Nelson, one of my all-time heroes. And I thought, oh my gosh, we should do Farm to School Aid. Let's throw a concert. And so I mentioned it Monday morning at a staff meeting, and I thought everybody was going to be like, no, you're crazy, we're not doing that. And everybody was like, yeah, we love it, let's go for it. We really wanted to do something, like Matt said, that like was joyful, that could bring community in, and with everything going on and just all of the chaos and heartache, We wanted to do something that was a celebration of all of the work that we do and bring people together and be able to share about our work. So we set a date. My husband is also a local musician, so he helped find the bands, and we did it Memorial Day weekend. Daniel, you can go to the next slide. Thanks. So we did a music festival at our farm on the north side of Madison, Troy Farm. We had 3 local bands, we had food trucks, and we ultimately raised over $20,000, which will support our school garden program for next year. So we were able to offset the cost of our gardener in residence program, and we did it based on like a tiered rate so that we were prioritizing our schools with the highest economic disadvantaged needs. And so, yeah, so we raised over $20,000 over the course of 2 months. We did it a variety of ways. We were sending out emails, with the cancellation of the AmeriCorps Farm to School program. We sent out an email specifically about that and got a good response and got donations directly from that email. We started talking a lot in the media about what was going on. So I was interviewed on our local radio station several times. I was also interviewed by Grist magazine, a national publication. And I think that got us a good amount of attention. So we were just trying to get out into the media as much as possible and spread the word about the funding cuts and also about farm to school aid. We did a bonfire merch campaign, which brought in some funding. And then the other money that came in at the event were through merch sales, beer sales, donations at the event. And then we also worked with some local food businesses. We have a restaurant here with a lovely pastry chef whose kids go to one of the schools that we work with for school garden programming. She donated dirt cup brownies. So all of the funds from that bake sale went to our farm to school aid fund. We also have a local ice cream shop that does fundraisers. So they are doing a pint sale, and we're getting all the proceeds from that. And then to also be able to get as many donations or to be able to hold on to as much of the money from the event. We also secured local sponsorships that helped like pay for the tent and all of that. I think that's it for me, Daniel. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erica. Yeah, these last two, there was like some foreshadowing in Matt's presentation. I was like, oh, this is a great segue. This is amazing. Thank you so much, Erica. And please join me in giving a round of applause to our amazing presenters. Thank you all so much for coming forward and really sharing a little bit of your expertise and things that are working. And so we're gonna move on to our Q&A portion. So if you can drop in the chat your questions and what presenter you would like that question asked to, that would be very, very, very helpful. So we have to type. So if you have any questions, yeah, please drop them in the chat. And if you can please put the name of the presenter that we can give it to. That would be great. We have some questions for Erica. How much did Farm to School Aid raise ultimately?
I think we're at like 24,000 right now. Overall, we also, I didn't mention this, but we had, when we started sending out those emails about the cuts to the farm to school grant and then the AmeriCorps cuts, we created at that time an online Give Butter fundraiser campaign. So overall, I think we've raised $24,000. And I think there was a second part of that question. How much of it was secured prior to the event? A good amount, actually. I would say at least half was secured ahead of the event with like we got a first time donor $5,000 donation from the day we sent out the email about our AmeriCorps program being cut. And so I would say and I saw somebody else ask, like, we do plan on doing this again. We want this to be an annual event. We were hoping for more donations at the event itself. We had QR codes everywhere, and we had speakers in between each set. We didn't have, it was free. We didn't want anyone to not come because of cost. And we thought, should we have a suggested donation? We didn't ultimately have one. But we think next year we can do a better job of actually soliciting donations at the event. But I would say at the event, the majority of our funds that we raised came from the merchandise sales and the beer sales. It was a lot of work. I see that question too. That's how much, I mean, that's really what I've been focusing most of my time on in between February and May, I would have to say. So, I mean, it was a big event to pull off, but it was the first time we had ever done it. So I think now, like, you know, we now kind of know what we're getting into. We learned a lot. And I think like next time around, it'll be, you know, that much easier, but definitely worth it as far as so many people came to our farm and had never been there before in the Madison area. So even beyond the donations, just like people learning more about our organization and having them come to the farm and have their kids running around was really meaningful for us.
Awesome.
Sorry, Daniel, I'm just.
No, I love it. This is, please.
Okay, there's another question for Jenna, so I'm gonna stop. But I'm happy. I'm gonna put my email in the chat. And I had so much fun planning this event. If anybody wants to do something similar, like please reach out with questions. I learned a lot, and so I'd be happy to chat. So I'm putting my email in there.
Yeah, and I can quickly answer that question from Susan. So I did help design the features, but I have a small developer team that I'm working with that's doing the actual coding because it's definitely beyond my skill set. So I did a tiny bit of it and to learn some new skills, but it was mostly my developer team.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenna. I think there's another, Jenna, you have another follow-up. Does Geo Garden Club use any AI and or does it rely on community collaboration?
So it currently does not use any AI, but we do have a kind of an offline feature we're testing that would be an AI tool that is trained specifically on the data that the community has added, so that you could query this we're calling it GeoBot. So you could query GeoBot with a question and it would look through only the data in the app to get the answer. So we are excited to implement that eventually, but right now, all of the and always all of the data will be from actual plans, crops and varieties, timing entered by real life gardeners.
Awesome. Remember, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I think folks are doing a great job at making sure we know who the question is for. If we don't have any other questions, we're gonna move on to our last piece of today, which is really just opening the floor. And we can continue. Please feel free to continue asking questions to our presenters. This will be more of an open discussion. If anyone in the chat, anyone that's been listening has an idea or resource or something that you're doing that also you'd like to share with the group, this is kind of a looser, open floor situation. Just some general guidelines. If you would like to share, if you can, I will be taking stacks. So if you can, please use the raise hand function so we can call you in order. That would be super helpful. And if you have a question, please continue to write them in the chat so we can ask them as folks are sharing. Especially if you're able to give us the name of who it is, just to keep the conversation flowing and going. So again, please use the raise hand function if you would like to share, and I will call on you and you can come off mute. If you have a question, go ahead and write it in the chat. both for a presenter as well as if you just have a question for the group as well. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for this part of today. See. No. Where it seems like I think we're all still trying to figure out all of our funding situations with all this new information. I'm curious to know if there's anyone in the room that is doing has any of this work been when you're trying to look at your funding situation, trying to be resilient, have you tried any of these methods that were presented today before, or have they gone well? Would you do them differently? I'm curious if anyone's tried some of these efforts and how that's gone. Awesome. Yeah, Kristen, go ahead.
Yeah, we've been doing like a yearly concert fundraiser that's been pretty good and growing over the last 4 years. And we don't have like a physical space. We do all of our programming at Rogue Valley Farm to School like in the school garden. So that's been a big challenge for us, not having like a place to put something on. But we have a good partnership with a local farm and they donate the space. And this year we've already, it's happening in 2 weeks. We're really in the thick of it, but, we've already secured, sponsorships are down this year, but we've secured $4,500 in sponsorships. And last year we had about $6,500 in sponsorships. And all in all, when everything was done last year, we had, raised about $13,000, and, alcohol sales were definitely like a large portion of that. And although we haven't purchased a mailing list last year in the fall, we did a kind of a cold direct mailing list where we sort of went around and we gleaned. We're in a really small rural area, so we kind of know who who the donors are around. And so we put together a really big list and then also pulled names all the way back to 2016 of lapsed donors and ran a re-engagement campaign that brought back a few relatively high level donors. And then we're going to be rerunning that in August because our schools start in September, trying to do another re-engagement campaign.
And Kristen, there's a follow-up. Erica has a follow-up question. Where are you located?
So we're in Southern Oregon. Our programming is like around, our office is in Ashland. I live in Grants Pass. So pretty much all the Rogue Valley, like from the California border and like up 30 miles, basically in that region. So quite a small population and lots of like all of the schools that we work in are Title I, lots of low income. But yeah, I would love to talk to you, Erica, because I love like the whole farm aid thing. And I'm thinking about maybe putting together a fall block party that would be in front of our office space or something like that. So we should totally chat. I'll send you my email.
Awesome. Matt, there was also a question for you. If you could share more about your community event and if it involved fundraising.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for us, we're trying to balance like what does it mean to bring community together to work towards a project that feels like a community initiative and not necessarily just a SunstainED Farms initiative, while also raising some money and feeling like progress is being made. And so I think like as our development team, which is me and one other, think about this, we're trying to like balance those things. And so I think for us, we have been partnering with the neighborhood association, so Valverde Neighborhood Association, to who really has led the work of building this garden in this community. and trying to think about ways that community members can drive this project forward without relying on federal or state or local money. So that's, I guess, the plan. I think we're gonna have it be like half community. We'll probably have a mariachi band. I love the idea of Farm Aid concert, but we probably don't have enough time to put this together. But then thinking about like selling some food, and I love the idea of merch too, having some like unique merch to be able to sell. So like the small dollars add up and can make a huge impact, especially when we're thinking about it going right back to a garden versus like thinking of overhead costs or something like that.
Awesome. You can go ahead, Wanda.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, Daniel, especially, and Tristana. So I kind of have a philosophical question. We too have been thinking about doing an eco-fest kind of concert. I come out of a boarding school tradition where we did one for 10 years that yielded almost $120,000. But now I'm working in West Oakland. The population is a little different. And I get stuck on the issue of alcohol, in that we are trying to model a certain care for one's own body, particularly in terms of healthy lifestyle. And then you layer not just the impact on the children, but honestly, the impact of alcohol on our children's lives already, right? And yet, that's where you're going to make a lot of money. And I'm just interested to hear. I was part of an organization that one time accepted a sponsorship from Tito's. And they're like, oh, we're going to send you all these volunteers. It's going to be so great. We're going to have all this merch. And I expressed this concern, especially in that neighborhood where they were going to bring alcohol and everybody was going to be banded, but there's already people laying in the streets drunk. They don't need the Tito's. But they did it, not my job. And the Tito's shirt, the punchline was something like, where spirits come together to brew love and peace. Or, I mean, it was a real use of the word spirits as a positive thing and not as alcohol to grow community. I'm just interested what others had think on that.
Go for it, Kristen.
Yeah, we think about that a lot too. And the first 2 years that we did our concert, we had it's since moved to Bend, unfortunately, but we had a local raw juice bar sponsor us. And I'll tell you that juice went faster than anything else that we were providing. And actually, the very first year, now that I think about it, we were rained out on our June date. So we moved it to October. And Rebecca Schlossberg, who's the other co-executive director and is on here, she brought her personal home apple press, and we gleaned a bunch of local apples, and we were like pressing apple juice at the event and selling cups of it. And it was so much fun. And the kids got involved with it. And I mean, granted, like there is a lot of sugar in a big cup of apple juice for little kids and like all of that, but you could cut it down with some sparkling water or whatever. But that was really fun. And I've also like here in Southern Oregon, there's a huge movement into like mocktails. And it seems like you could do like a whole really fun mocktail bar with like different herbs and things that are grown in the gardens. If you're doing school gardens, I don't really know exactly what your model is, but something like that where you could have like teas and bubbly water and different like flavored cordials or whatever, and like people could almost DIY their drinks, or you could have some set menus, right? And somebody's just back there like making mocktails, and that could be a really, really fun, cool way to do it. And it actually might be too late for me to do it for this year in 2 weeks, but that makes me want to do it at ours too. Thank you for bringing that up.
I got to say, for what they charge for mocktails in the Bay Area, we could make probably almost as much money.
Yeah, I think I just went to I mean, I'm sure we've all done this, especially working in school gardens. I just went to an event with Fresh Farm. Sorry, didn't raise my hand, my bad. First one to break my own rules. But everything in the event was made by students and okay, sorry, context. They just opened a kitchen in a part of town in DC that usually has very low food access and is the first teaching kitchen. And during the classes for that week, the children made the food that was then passed out for the inauguration, and it included a drink, vegetable salad, and also some baked goods. So, and I feel like people will probably pay a little bit of a premium if if it's definitely made by students. So, and it's all going back to them, but yeah, leveraging that is definitely great practice. Awesome, everybody. Any last light bulbs before we wrap up? Awesome. Well, if you you do have any other ideas, please continue sharing in the forum. Just some very last piece of today. If we would love to continue hearing your feedback. Thank you all so much for being here. We would love to hear your feedback on what you got out of today, as well as if we were to host another one of these gatherings, what you would like to see in these gatherings. So we do have a feedback survey. It will be dropped in the chat very briefly, and you will also receive it in our follow-up email soon. Again, we want to know what you want to learn, both from gatherings as well as webinars, and what topics are interesting to you. And thank you so much. Really excited to be here with you all. If you have any other questions, you can reach us on Instagram and continue to connect at SGSO-Network on Instagram and Facebook. Surprise, SGSO-Network as well. Or you can send us an email directly to info@sgsonetwork.org if you want to get in touch, if you have any follow-up questions. But otherwise, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to our amazing presenters. It's always so amazing to be with all of these heads in a room. If you do put on events, tag us. We're more than happy to promote them and support you however we can. So thank you all so much. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.